to become the new mayor of London as the government unveils plans for 3 months of consultation towards a new relationship between 5 million London voters and local government. The successor to Dick Whittington will perhaps look more like the current mayor of Paris or New York, directly elected and with enormous political clout. Martha Kearney reports on what has been called the ultimate Balkan nightmare of 33 London boroughs in search of a leader.
It's been 11 years since the GLC were here at County Hall. We've been hearing about new powers for Scotland, devolution for Wales. Now it's London's turn. But today's radical reforms could do more than just affect the capital city. They could transform the face of local government throughout England. This morning, the Deputy Prime Minister was spreading the word about the government's plans. He didn't seem unduly worried that they were mainly civil servants from his own department.
Oh yes, I've never seen one.
Londoners are to be consulted over the proposals for a directly elected mayor and a new slimline assembly. Some say this is just a clumsy hybrid of two different systems. It looks like a messy compromise. Isn't there inevitably going to be
a messy compromise? I know your Newsnight now. As soon as you say that, how can it be a compromise to have an elected assembly and an elected chief executive? It's new. We shouldn't resist new ideas, and we're going to see how that can reinvigorate the strategic decision-making rather than all the quangos that have been acting in the name of London, of which Londoners have no influence over. We're returning democracy back to the people of London.
Aren't there worries about moving to a more presidential style of government? Aren't we going further down this road of the cult of personality?
No, I mean, it's about government being accountable, and in the media age, when you want to talk to whoever, you turn us all into personalities. And that's inevitable that people will say, well, if they've got more publicity, more personality, they tend to have more clout. That's why we want democratic accountability of personalities accountable to elected representatives. So let's try something different. After all, this is a major capital city. It's the best in the world, but it hasn't got good regional democratic government, and we intend to change that.
The government acknowledges huge problems facing London: homelessness, unemployment, poverty, which it wants the new authority to tackle. For cab drivers on a lunch break, an integrated transport policy seemed the main issue. Well, terrible traffic anyway.
They say something about the bus lanes, they're putting things on the bus lanes, but they've got to do something with the traffic. It's an absolute joke. And it ain't fair on the public. They're getting into black cab. So that, I think, will be the first thing, really, they want to sort out is the traffic, personally.
What do you think about the idea of having an elected mayor in London?
Yeah, I think that'd be a really good idea, as long as it was the right sort of person, someone from grassroots level. I don't think, you know, you'd have to have someone that lives and possibly grown up in London, and not just that, understands the people of London as well.
I mean, if he could be in charge of some sort of overall, rather like son of GLC, if you like, something like that, but not quite as bureaucratic as that, I think that's really what most people want.
Any ideas about who should be the mayor?
Well, I know there's a few prominent candidates, Lord Archer amongst them, and Stephen Norris. I think every sort of out-of-work politician is throwing his hand into the ring, so I think it's, I mean, I'll put myself up.
Richard Branson would be ideal, wouldn't he? He's not frightened of anybody, always wants to do something. Bloody good idea.
What about Steve Norris?
Who's Stephen Norris?
Definitely not a politician.
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, yeah. Michael Caine, yeah. He'd make it.
And not a lot of people know that he's a contender. But what does seem clear from today's proposals is that the balance of power in the new authority will rest firmly with the mayor. Described as an elected chief executive for the city, he or she will be free to draw up an annual budget, make plans to tackle London-wide problems, and promote economic, environmental and social regeneration. The Assembly, for its part, is envisaged as a small body of some 24 to 32 members who will represent the interests of all Londoners. It will have the right to question the mayor about his or her plans and proposals, including the budget, and disagree or suggest changes where necessary. The Assembly might also be allowed to carry out inquiries and produce reports. The government's been inspired by the example of powerful mayors around the world. In New York, Rudy Giuliani led a successful crackdown on crime. In Spain, Mayor Pascal Maragall managed to lure the Olympics to Barcelona. But not all are success stories. The mayor of Paris, Jean Tibéry, is currently under formal investigation on suspicion of misusing public funds. And in Washington, Marion Barry was sent to jail for smoking crack cocaine.
I think one thing that we've learned throughout the American experiment is that people really do want to have a mayor. They want politically and electorally accountable government. On the other hand, it's the tie between the elected officials and the government jobs that creates a problem. The people have to be able to fire the mayor. The mayor has to be able to fire the political appointees, and then incompetent civil service employees need to be fired somehow. But you do need a protection for civil workers from political retaliation by the mayor.
Other British cities like Newcastle could also see mayors if the experiment works in London. The former Labour council leader in Newcastle believes there could be a clash if the mayor and council come from different parties.
And I think there might be a conflict between an elected mayor, presumably elected on his own mandate and manifesto, and out of the council who might be elected on a different programme, particularly, of course, if the council's complexion were to change during a mayor's period of office. And I think there could well be difficulties in reconciling two quite different positions, that of the mayor and that of the council.
But a not wholly disinterested party, Lord Archer, believes that gridlock could even be a force for good.
I think there should be some checks and balances, always. No one person should have that amount of authority without having to turn to someone and say, this is what I want to do about our roads, this is what I want to do about the cleanliness of our city, this is what I want to do about our ambulance service, without them being able to check it. So I think you need someone who has the authority and power and determination to make things change. But if he or she decides to go too far, there is some sort of check.
It's a Chinese restaurant now, but once the seat of London government, County Hall, abolished by the Conservatives. They think the new authority won't stay streamlined for long.
My worries and concerns about the new authority are that whatever the powers are that they begin with, what's going to happen is that the new elected authority is going to take powers to itself and to seek new powers. And what we're going to end up with is obviously something like a new form of the GLC. We don't want that. I don't think London wants that. Therefore, we reject the Greater London Authority concept. We want a mayor, but not the new authority.
The ghost of Red Ken has haunted New Labour, which hopes it's laid to rest the spectre of the GLC once and for all. But it's still unclear if its successor can really provide the model for the next generation of local government.
Well, I'm joined now by Nick Raynsford, who's the Minister for London, David Williams, Liberal Democrat leader of Richmond-upon-Thames Council, George Brooker, Labour leader of Barking and Dagenham, and Joan Hanham, leader of Kensington and Chelsea. Joan Hanham first, the Tories abolished the GLC. Is your acceptance of a mayor as a strategic thinker for London an admission that you got it wrong?
No, I don't think it's an admission that we got it wrong at all. I think we had a cabinet subcommittee which acknowledged that London was very important during the previous government. But the election did take place, and it was quite clear during the election that there were people saying that a voice for London was important. And I think we've accepted that what London wants is a voice for London. What we do not accept, and what I don't accept, is that there's any need for a bureaucracy, a bureaucratic assembly behind that mayor to transform, as they're trying to suggest it would, London.
David Williams, you Liberal Democrats say that this is wrong, the wrong way to go. Why do you fear the idea of having a strong mayor for London, which is a great city, as we heard repeatedly in that report, along the lines of Paris or New York or any other of the world's great cities?
Well, first of all, I'm very much in favour of having a democratic council in London, such as is being proposed. I'm very sceptical about whether the mayor is really a necessary part of that, and I think it's a complication. If you have a separately elected mayor with the council being elected in a different basis, just as Jeremy Beecham said earlier in your report, you may get conflict, you may have different policies, you may have different programs, you may get stalemate too.
But you have no doubt that a directly elected mayor with this huge electorate here would be a very powerful political force.
It depends on what powers that person is given. The mayor of New York doesn't have a huge amount of power. He's separately elected, and it's to a large degree a big PR stunt, a lot of things that he does. I think you want to talk about getting London put to rights, getting the problems solved with the potential gridlock, all these sorts of things. You could do that with an elected council at regional level, with the leader of the council as the figurehead, as the mayor, like Pasqual Maragall in Barcelona. Well, he's not directly elected.
Let me bring in George Brooker. What demand do you detect from within the Labour Party in London to have a mayor, a powerful mayor in London?
Most of the discussions I've been involved in with the leaders of London, most of them, 80%, 90% of them have been against it. And let me make it quite clear, we're right behind Nick with elected authority. We have been for years, ever since the GLC was disbanded, in which we agreed with the DSC should have had its throat cut with the silliness it got up to. But we've been behind the idea of elected authority for London. We think now that we've been bounced.
Bounced? And what do you mean bounced?
Into, add into that an elected mayor.
You mean bounced by the government to accept this without talking up?
Yeah.
Okay. Nick Raynsford, he's been bounced into it.
No one's been bounced into anything. We've published today a consultation paper which sets out our proposals. The people of London will have a 3-month period between now and the 24th of October to respond to those proposals, and we will then firm up our decisions in a white paper. So this is a highly democratic process in which there will be ample opportunity for everyone to have their say. But can I just say the crucial thing? What we're about is creating a new framework for government in London which will get things done, which will tackle the real problems that need to be tackled, transport, poverty and unemployment, those sort of issues, and which will be genuinely accountable. And I have to say, you've seen from the film, you've seen from examples elsewhere, that if you have a powerful mayor, which we believe is important to get things done, there is a risk, if that person is not accountable, of the kind of corruption that's occurred elsewhere. So the Assembly is a vital ingredient to keep a check on the mayor.
Okay,
the two together are crucial, and they are the blueprint for the future.
We'll come on to the Assembly in a moment, but George Brooker's point was that if you start consulting your own people in London, 80% of them will say, we just don't want this, we don't want this mayor.
I don't read that at all. I saw the poll on Carlton Television, if I can quote another channel, this evening, showing that 72% of Londoners backed the proposal that we put forward today.
Let me get it clear, I'm saying the people that make up the political party. I'm not talking about the public as you do. I think the public's been manoeuvred along here with all the propaganda and all the niceties that's come out over the last few months. I haven't really heard a decent discussion against the mayor effort. Every time I switch the television on, it's always what a great thing this is for the people. So the people are getting pushed into this with Simon Jenkins in the Standard and so forth. He's been on this for months. There's a hidden agenda behind each one of you here.
Well, the hidden agenda is what?
Well, let's take Conservatives. The Conservatives were completely against this. Used to embarrass me when I was getting into discussions and arguments in conversations with, that I had the Conservatives backing me up. We do not want a mayor. And so therefore,
let me bring in Joan Hanham on her secret agenda here.
Suddenly they've just changed it, and the reason for it is they've lost so many seats across London. This is one opportunity. They might get an opportunity of getting power. That's
you only want this because you might win the mayoralty of London.
I hear exactly what is being said, but there is no secret agenda behind this. In opposition, you're perfectly entitled to look and see what your policies were previously. And as I said earlier on, we've accepted that there is a requirement for a voice for London. But what we don't accept is this extra assembly. The power in London, in the local government, is held by the 33 London boroughs. And it's perfectly possible to have somebody elected as the chief executive or as a mayor, but to have behind them the local boroughs working with them, working through the leaders, working through perhaps a board, to provide that checks and balances. What we do not want is another layer of bureaucracy, and on top of this, we're likely to get the London Development.
David Williams.
No, this is a fundamental misrepresentation of what is happening with these proposals as far as the authority is concerned. What we are doing is democratising a layer of government at the moment. We're not taking anything from the boroughs in all the proposals that the Liberal Democrats and the Labour Party have been pushing for a long time. It's taking these unaccountable quangos that John Prescott was talking about, taking the Government Office for London functions, these sorts of things, and putting them into an effective, directly elected accountable body.
But Nick Raynsford, you could do all of that by giving it to the boroughs. I mean, why do you need a mayor an assembly and the boroughs as well?
Quite simply because there are a number of functions which have to be carried out on a pan-London basis. You can't plan transport on the basis of 32 different transport policies, 32 different boroughs. It wouldn't work. Air quality, you need an overview. Planning, there needs to be a strategic view across the whole of London. It is only those services for which there is a need for the strategic overview which will be handled by the strategic authority. All the local services will be handled separately by the boroughs, so there will be no overlap, no different bodies overlapping each other. There will be quite separate functions, and the strategic ones will be discharged by the strategic body.
And finally and briefly, there's no role for a Minister for London in this, is there?
Oh, there's every role for a Minister for London.
Well, if you have a mayor, why do we need you?
But the role of the Minister of London, above all at the moment, is to bring into force an arrangement under which the people of London will once again have the democratic right to elect their own government. And I shall be very proud indeed to deliver that.
Massive bureaucracy.
But you know, you ought to split, the votes, though.
Mr. Brooker, we have to leave it there.
You should split the votes to make sure that we've got a vote for the mayor and a vote for the...
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, I agree with that.
Not lumber us into one situation where we've got one opportunity.
We'll have to leave it there. Thank you all very much.